What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Tell Me More podcast presented by the Real Estate Cheat Code. And I'm super excited because I have Brandon Galik with us from eXp Realty. And Brandon, when did we connect? We probably connected 6, 7 years ago, maybe.
Oh man, it's been that long. I want to say 2018. So I mean, five years ago. Pretty
Okay, so
close.
it's probably I thought it was when I kind of moved out to Pataskala. So
Okay.
that would have been 2017, 2018.
Yeah, that's about right.
Is when that happened. So, but no, I'm super excited to have you on because obviously we kind of hung out, since then, and I know a little bit of your story, but I don't know the full story. Here on the Tell Me More podcast, as you know, my passion is kind of helping people get into the real estate space, and really going after and challenging the failure rate that we have as an industry, right? And I believe that there's not one way to accomplish success. I believe that there's many different paths to finding success in this business. And, the Tell Me More podcast is just about sharing your journey and the highs and lows of everything that you experienced so far in the business. So, but Brandon, we always start growing up. And what I find is, through interviewing agents, usually there's something that happens either early on in their life or early on in maybe a different career that has a lasting impact on just maybe how they view business or their real estate business. So, what was life like for you growing up?
Man, how early you want me to start, John?
Early, early.
um, I would say the number one thing is I was always kind of involved, I guess, in the community. In high school, I was involved with stuff, sports, extracurricular stuff. So I think all this goes back to people. I mean, I've always been involved in different groups and stuff like that. And then it's kind of when I went to college, same thing. I was an RA, so also people type of business. And then after that, I worked at a corporate sales job. So same thing, sales, people, same type of thing, and then onto real estate.
So, you're kind of a little bit interesting in the fact that you now live in the same town that you grew up in, and obviously doing real estate, within that town. But what did you dive into after high school? Obviously you went to college.
Mhm.
What did you originally go to college for, and did you end up graduating?
Yes. So I started off at Ohio State. I went there for 3 years. Um, I had several degrees at Ohio State. I went from architecture to engineering to design. So all over the board. It's got to the point where I was kind of like, I need to switch it up because I've just been in so many different majors that this isn't working out. So I got to the point I was looking around, and then I went down to Ohio University down in Athens. And so when I started down there, I wanted to make a complete change, and it started off as I did a education, middle school education. I wanted to be a teacher degree because my ultimate goal at that time was a principal type of thing. So I also got my business degree. So those were the two things I kind of focused on. So I stayed down there for a couple of years, graduated, did my student teaching, got my business minor, so got all that kind of stuff. And yeah, I didn't end up doing the teaching part. Right out of school, I liked it, but the student teaching it didn't go exactly how I thought it would. I enjoyed it, but the passion just wasn't there for me. So right out of college, that's when I started going into sales jobs.
What made you go from Ohio State to Ohio University?
Oh, I originally liked Ohio University. It was actually my number one choice, but then when I started thinking about money, and it was that time of I graduated when during '08 when everything was kind of going downhill. So I wanted to stay closer to home. So I lived at home. So it was much cheaper to, stay here and go to Ohio State. The issue I ran into was I switched my major way too many times. So I got to a point to where if I don't switch, I'm going to pretty much start over. I'm in my third year already. So it kind of just happened because it had to.
Yeah. No, I bring it up because I feel like we're kind of like that, last generation for right now, where it was like you got to go to college to get the good degree or the good job, right? You got to get the
Right.
degree to get the good job. And, obviously when we came out, the workforce wasn't that great. It wasn't terrible, but it wasn't great
Right.
either. So I'm always curious of that journey of college, and, whether parents kind of force you to go or not go. And
Right.
it's one of those things when you look back on it, it's like me at Ohio State. Like, I went for accounting, failed calculus, and
Right.
switched to
Same here.
sports management. Yeah, switched to sports, man. It's the only class I've ever failed in my life, and
Same here.
uh, it forced me to switch my. Well, it didn't force me. It caused me to think about switching my degree, which I ended up doing, and ultimately that degree, I felt by the time I was done, I was worth more than what the pay was. So it got me
Right.
into real
Right.
estate. So it's always interesting when you go back and reflect on those big decisions as a 18, 19-year-old, that we have to make.
Right. Yep.
So you ended up eventually graduating, right? Teacher was the track. Was it something about like education? I know you said you want to be a principal, but was it
Yeah.
something about like wanting to help the younger generation, or is it just something like I just love teaching things?
I would say it was a combination of both. I mean, I've always, loved the group setting of where I can, teach something. And I was a history major. So I was teaching history and kind of the route of, I think it was fifth and sixth grade, I was student teacher for. So I think it was an interesting topic. I think that the issue for me was there was so much standardized testing. It was so based around testing and this book you had to teach out of. And I got to the point I'm like, I'm not that kind of person. I don't follow guidelines real well. So I was going through this whole semester and planning out, and I was like, man, this just isn't for me. This isn't how I remember growing up and, learning lessons and all those fond memories I have of fifth and sixth grade and learning history of where I kind of, have my roots of why I wanted to teach. And it was
Yeah.
just completely different. So it was based on the fact that I do like teaching and I've always had that in me. And I think that what I was teaching wasn't exactly for me.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I get it. I get it. So graduate, end up going into kind of sales type roles. What were some of the things that you were selling, and how long, were you kind of doing those things before you decided, or lead me up to the point of when you're like, hey, I'm thinking about real estate. I want to get into real estate.
Yeah, I mean, so right after I decided that, I moved back home and I decided teaching wasn't for me. So that the only other job I had right out of college, I went to Verizon Wireless. So I worked a sales job there. I was in the stores. I was in training for a couple months, and I'd say they did a really, really good job when I was right out of college of training, how to sell stuff. And it was, mostly based around, you connect with your customers, you have conversations that have nothing to do with anything at all, really. It's just connecting with them. And then from there is when you start to assume, they need this type of thing based on their conversation. And it was a pretty intense sales job. I mean, for right out of college and being younger, I mean, it was nonstop, and you pretty much take customers every 10 minutes. I mean, there was no stopping. And in that route, I was trying to go more of the business route of Verizon, is working more with business customers on the business side, which is really tough to get in that time. So I was there for about, I'd say 2.5, 3 years. So I almost got my 3 years in, and I was halfway through is when I started to go through my real estate transition.
What was it about real estate that kind of piqued your interest?
Yeah. So the weird thing about that was, so when I moved back home, my mom at that time bought the current house I live in right now. So it was on the market. I saw it. I was like, we should. It's foreclosed. So I was like, this is something that you guys should buy and then start to fix up. And it was kind of more of what I wanted to do more than them. So we bought this old house and we started fixing it up. And soon into fixing it up, my mom and stepdad actually got transferred down to North Carolina. So that's when they started like, do you want to start renting the house and eventually buy it from us? I was like, yeah. So it was pretty much on me. They started the renovation, but didn't get too far into it. And I started getting into it and all the numbers and different things I could do with it. And it really piqued my interest of, this is what I love to do. Between the the real estate side and the construction side, it was kind of what got me to that point of where I want to do real estate.
Yeah. And so were you really getting into it from the investment standpoint? Was that kind of the play, was really kind of buying houses, fixing them up, flipping them, or was it to do more of the sales side?
No, so all along it was the investor side. I always had that investor mindset. I think Verizon kind of stemmed that of where, I was thinking about the numbers and what makes sense and what that looks like. And honestly, that was my only focus. And so going into the other side of, being a realtor was secondary to me the entire time. And then that just kind of bloomed from getting my real estate license and starting somewhere to where they both kind of join together.
Yeah. What year did you end up getting your license?
Oh man, 2016. Yeah, 16 or early 17.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. When did you kind of start doing the residential sales side of it? Because I was kind of like you, right? Like I really was interested in the investment side, and that's still just kind of how my brain thinks of real estate, even when I'm helping clients, is only as an investment. But it was
mm,
sales just kind of happened, and that's kind of what taught me the business. And I've dabbled a little bit more into the investment side, but sales is my main thing. When did you
right.
kind of start doing or seeing the benefits of helping other people buy and sell real estate?
Yeah, so the way it kind of worked was my last year at Verizon. I was working 5, 6 days a week, and it was mostly weekends. And I mean, it was a crazy schedule. So I started going through at that time it was real estate school, which was in person and hectic. And I was going there and working at Verizon at the same time. So there's 3, 4 days a week where I was pretty much doing like a double shift. And from there, Verizon kind of launched my base of people I sold to. There's people at the store. They're like asking me like, "What's your long term plan?" All that kind of stuff. So I started getting people from that, and that's kind of how I launched into the sales side. And then when I got my license, I was like, I need to start working up some capital and money for my investments. And so it pretty much just I was starting to sell to people. So that was how I got started doing that side first.
When you got in, instant success, struggles, did you have doubters? Like, supporters? I know
Mhm.
I'm, my parents always supported me. I'm not saying that they didn't, but
Right.
I can only imagine what they were probably thinking when I told them, "Hey, thanks for the 4-year degree, but I'm jumping into real estate and sales in 2011." So, what was it like for you? Did you
Right.
have supporters and doubters getting in? And what was kind of like that first year like in the business?
I would say it was mostly supportive. I didn't really have too many doubters. The hard part for me was as soon as I got started, the first brokerage I was with was less than 6 months. That's where I didn't see support. Wasn't much doubt, but I mean, there just wasn't the support there. And being new and not exactly knowing, what to do and all that kind of stuff, I was going through that process. Like this just doesn't feel right for me between, not having the support and technology and people reaching out to me and kind of helping me. I didn't have that mentor or any direction which to go. So the first year was, oh yeah, very rough. I didn't have much of a client base. It's mostly referrals and friends and family. And it was just, trying to navigate my way through how does this work? And it took another brokerage and another year under my belt until I started to finally get, that help and education I needed because I had no idea. I didn't know how to write an offer. I didn't know what to expect once I wrote an offer is accepted. I didn't know any of that. It was all a handbook. I'm following these guidelines and timelines, and I was just so lost. And that's when I had to find someone else that could help me and, get me up to speed on what to do.
How did you focus on going out and building your business? Was it just sphere of influence and word of mouth? Did you do leads? Like what was kind of your thought process to go out and actually build that clientele?
Yeah, it started off in my sphere of influence. So it was all referrals and word of mouth. I did a lot of social media when I first started, and I did lead generation through Facebook and Instagram, and I went through that, and I did some mailers and stuff like that. But yeah, starting out, it was mostly referrals. That's why I kind of got my base from.
what, lead me up to like current day as far as just your real estate business. I know you've done, the investment side as well. Kind of how have you built your business to current day? What's your
The
main
current day,
focus trying to do?
yeah, I'd say the current day. I mean, it's a mixture. I've gone through everything. I've gone through the, leads from farming to social media to sphere of influence to family, friends. So I'd say today is more of a mixture. I'd say lead wise, I want to get back, into doing more of that online. And I've slacked a little bit this year on that 'cause I've been so busy, but that's more of my next route, which way I want to go. Sphere of influence is great, but only get you so far at the end of the day. And I want to get back to, those leads that I was getting before.
And I know you've done a couple flips yourself. So for those,
Mhm,
agents that are kind of, maybe thinking like you're thinking, right? Like, hey, I want to do some
mhm.
investments. I want to dabble, and do both sides of the business. What advice would you give them? Because I know you're also very hands on,
Right,
with
right.
your investments as well. So, any advice to those people that are out there thinking about getting into real estate, but really focusing more on the investment side?
Yeah, I would say start now. Start as early as you can. I mean, it's different for everybody. I'm a little unique into where my wife is an interior designer, so she can, find all those products for me and order them and get them on a cheaper rate and discount compared to somebody who has no idea what they're doing. Like you said, I also do a lot of my own contracting, so I do a lot of these projects myself. Between everything else, and it's like that saves a ton of money. But some people aren't able to do that. So I'd say the biggest thing is you need to connect with people who can get you there. I mean, that's gonna be contractors, lenders that can help you get money to pay for these things, and just, I mean, you need resources, and it's mostly people, as you know, and finding what's your strengths and weaknesses and investing. And it's taken time and, failures and lessons to kind of learn what can I bring to the table when I'm doing an investment. What can I use other people to more. I need to leverage my time more is really one of my weaknesses, and want to do too much myself and not bringing others on. So that's something I've really learned over the last few years. And I mean, it's gotten harder and harder to find deals, but they're still out there. And as the market kind of grows, you still, if you find those deals, they're still definitely worth it.
Yeah, I think, modeling success, right? Having someone there to kind of
Hmm.
lean on to, for advice or ideas or whatever the case may be.
Right.
So, if you guys are thinking that route, make sure Brandon's info is down below. So make sure that you do reach out to him for that. Brandon, I wanted to kind of talk about like future pacing of where you're looking to
Hmm.
get into, your business and just things that you got going on. Because I know you got a lot of different things going and very active in the community and things like that. What's something that you're looking to accomplish in the next 12 months?
Oh, 12 months. Wow. In the next 12 months, I would say, I mean, very similar with what I'm doing now. I want to get more into investments for sure on that side. And investment wise, trying to get more flips, more into rentals, so buy and holds. I'm getting a little bit more into the commercial space and mixed use space. I'd say development is a little bit further down the road than 12 months, but that's a goal of mine to get more into real estate developing because I think that's a big thing when it happens in Central Ohio. On the other side of it, I'd like for personally get my team kind of started and going so I can have that aspect too of I have multiple things kind of flowing towards the same goal. And I'd say within the next 12 months, those are probably my main priorities.
Are you allowed to announce your current big project?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. It's underway. So
Well, share
yeah,
with the
so
people
yeah,
about it.
so currently we bought a commercial building in downtown Pataskala that we're restoring right now. That's pretty much the front half's gonna be my wife's home decor interior design store. Her store is named Reverie Home Co. She is currently an interior designer. She already has that all started. So now she's going more into the physical space to, have people in and connect clients to her actual furniture and decor and stuff like that. And in the back, we're putting a little like cocktail lounge speakeasy with a large patio. It's kind of food trucks, live music, like a little English garden out back. And we're just trying to marry the two businesses into one, and have people out drink and shop, and then shop and drink, and then kind of do both of those things. And then along with that, we're trying to get a Dora downtown Pataskla, which is where you can have an open container and like a beer or wine, and kind of walk around and shop. And that's kind of the other project we have going on to kind of pass, and we can just marry all those things together. But that's our current project.
Yeah, no, I'm super excited. So those that maybe are out on the east side that live out
Mhm.
towards Pataskala, stay tuned. And Brandon, I know you're very active in the community, right? Grew up out there. Even now you're very active downtown and wanting to know what's going on for agents that want to get active in their communities of where they live or
Mhm.
within the cities or the councils or whatever. Where do they start? Like, I know you and I talked about it. For me,
Yeah.
I'm not I don't like doing the politics and all that kind of stuff. So I leave that up to you, and you can be my
Right.
go-to resource.
Yeah.
But for those that want to kind of get started, because I do believe that there
Mhm.
are agents out there that they want to have an impact in some of those decisions that are happening in the places that they're living, and want to be in the know. But some people just don't know where to go, right, or what to
Right.
do. Any advice or guidance there?
Yeah. Oh man. So the way I got started was I kind of started attending city council meetings. So you'll have city council meetings, then you'll have township meetings, depending where you're at. I mean, there's county meeting, there's all kinds of stuff, depending what you want to get into. But I started with city council meetings. I started attending, started talking with the mayor, other city council members, and I was like, I want to get involved in the community. Kind of lead me in the right direction what to do. So in our community, we have zoning board committees. We have all these different kind of committees. So I started on BZA, which is a local zoning committee that we have here. So I was on that for, I believe, about a year and a half. And then from there, we had an open spot kind of open on council. And I applied for that, interviewed, and ended up getting, hired. And then from there, every 4 years now, I have to run. I'm currently running again in November to stay on council. And then what comes with that is I'm also on several committees within the city. So like I'm like on the utility committee, which is our water and sewer out here, and then parks committee, all these different kind of committees I'm on right now. And so what I tell people is, especially in real estate, it's a very good way to stay kind of plugged in on what's going on. So I could tell you a lot of information about zoning around here, what that involves. So if like a developer comes in, like what all does that entail of I need to go through the city and have all these different things kind of required. And then the big one right now is water and sewer, because it's a lot of our local plants around here are coming up to capacity. And so a lot of developers come in, or, someone that wants to put apartments in or something like that. It's like, if you come in, you might be on a waiting list to have water capacity for a couple of years, which is, there's gonna be a ton of holding costs involved with that for a developer. So it's just you really, you're on, boots on the ground in the community of what's going on. You're in the know, what's not only going on right now, but what's coming up. I think that's a big value add to not only developers, but clients coming in to know what's the taxes look like, what's the school district look like, what's going to happen in the next 5 years once I buy here. Cause it's a big investment for people, and they want to know what's happening now, what's going to happen. It's very easy for me to, make a call. I have clients all the time, past clients all the time. They'll call and like, I've had this issue with the neighbor, or they're building this next door. What is this? I get those calls all the time.
Yeah. And I think um, I think it's just like what you said, right? I mean, and for me, like I just call you and say, hey, what do I need to know,
Right.
right? But I think we're in a growing city, right? And for Columbus, we're expanding outward. We're not expanding upward, and
Right.
I think some people just think that it's as easy as, oh, there's going to be developments that happen. And I
Right.
know in the private conversations that you and I have had, just yesterday was, around the water capacity. And
Right.
it's not just come in and put 300 homes in and put in the sewer and the city water, right?
Yep.
There's more that goes into it, and there may be a waiting period. So what does that mean, right, to our clients? It means that maybe values are going to continue to go up because inventory stays low, right?
Right.
Or maybe there's going to be some other developments that have to happen first before this happens, right? And where are
Right.
those going to be, and what are they, and all of those things. And if you guys want to get involved into the city, or if you want to be like me, find someone that's doing it that you have a relationship with, and they can just pass on the news to you. So,
It's way easier, I'll
but
tell you that.
less time commitment too, huh?
Yes.
Brandon, but what's something that you're looking to accomplish in the next 5 years? What's a 5-year goal for you?
I'd say that come back to our conversation earlier. I've always had that, like you said, investor mindset of, I want to do more flips, more rentals. I see where the market's kind of going. So I'm going to continue to head that route. I think the next big thing for me is I would like to see me get more involved in the development side of, I think mixed use, with the business and residential is going to be a huge thing as we kind of start running out of land and growing. And, just getting involved in this commercial space we're getting involved in now, I can see the benefit of having, the business with the residential mixed in to where you have, two different entities paying for one building. So that's more of what I want to get involved with going on the road. And, I like when they make them look stacked, when they have that business on the bottom and then they have that, those rentals on top, and how nice those can look and how much value add that can bring to residents and the city, and just overall, the community can really benefit from things like that.
Just because I know, you're involved in the Pataskala,
Mm,
and I think obviously you have the cities like Johnstown and Granville's a little bit bigger, downtown area. But do you
mhm.
see those downtowns growing in that way? Do you see those downtowns developing in that way?
You read my mind. Yeah, and that's more my goal too. Is me specifically, it's downtown Pataskal, where I'm already at. I live there. I have a building there, and just talking through the city and our plans for the future. That is exactly the route people want to go, because I think that the big part is you want something that looks nice, brings people in, brings businesses in that don't take up too much space. But at the same time, it's all about the parking, the logistics of infrastructure. Those things make sense because you don't take up as much space. You can have all the utilities in one space. So I think so personally. Yeah, Granville's a little bit different, where it's a much older place and pretty much developed as is. But
Right.
I'd say places like Johnstown, Alexandria, Pataskala, smaller towns like that have room. They're downtown that want to expand. I mean, I think that's the way you're going to go. I mean, you see Johnstown now, where they have that New Albany developer come in. They want to do exactly pretty much what they did in New Albany, where it is mixed use. It has business on the bottom, renewals on top, and it looks nice. It doesn't take as much space up, but I think it's
Yeah.
more the route of where we're kind of headed.
No, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Um, Brandon, what's a legacy goal for you? What's something
Oh
that
man.
you want to hit when you're no longer here?
I'd say a legacy goal for me, and it's kind of always been. It comes back to this community and downtown Pataskala, where I'd seen it as a kid growing up. Where it's gone through phases and cycles, just like Central Ohio, to where it was really nice at one point, and then it declined as the area declined and housing declined, all that kind of stuff. And I've seen it back on the rise. And now we're back here today of seeing all the different changes, and it's now on the rise. And I kind of want to be one of those people and you look back on and see if I made a positive change to the community, and I brought this kind of stuff in the town and made it look the way it does now. And I want that kind of my legacy of the area. So that's more where I'm going with it.
I love it. Last question for you, and I appreciate you jumping on with me today and just sharing your journey and just talking real estate. It, what's one piece of advice that either you wish you had when you first got into the business, or one piece of advice that if an agent asks you what do they need to be focusing on to go out and have their success, what is it? What is it for you?
To me, it always comes back to this: is fall in love with the process. I think that's something, as I've gotten a little bit older, I've lost track of when I first started compared to now. It's, you got to do that. You have to grind and you have to fall in love with the things that are hard and difficult that don't lead to success, right away, but it takes time. And, you can see if you've slacked for a month or two and you haven't, hit your leads and followed up, and you see those cycles of I've had a downturn and then you get back to it, and then you see the uptick. And I would say just stick with that. Stick with your process, go through it, and you're not going to see, success overnight. It takes time to build something, and you got to continue with it. And if you want it bad enough, then you just got to keep going through all those obstacles and failures you're going to face.
That was one of the biggest things for me. I saw a Kobe Bryant interview years ago,
Mm-hmm.
and that was his message.
Yep.
Was falling in love with the process. The fundamentals, the calls, the rejections, and everything else in between. And if you think about it in our world, in real estate, right? In the grand scheme of things, we're only going to have a few wins every single month, right?
Right.
Especially the big
Right.
wins, right? The big wins of the closings, right? The majority of agents,
Yes.
are going to sell. The average is what, 8 deals a year, 10 deals a year now. I think it got up there when the market was great, and I'm sure it's going to go back down a little bit. But think about it. If you don't fall in love with the process and you only have 10 deals or 15 deals or 20 deals, like it's going to be a struggle, right? Just from
Right.
a mentality standpoint. So I love what you just shared right there, because it's so
Yep.
true. It's so true. And the faster that you can figure that out, the faster you're going to go and have that success. So,
Yep.
um, Brandon, thanks so much for your time of coming on here and sharing your journey. And, Brandon's information, those that are watching, his information is down below. So if you're an investor or, a developer, right, or someone that wants to kind of get into that space, or maybe wants to get involved into your community, and don't know where to start, make sure you guys hit up Brandon. But Brandon, for those that are listening in,
Mhm.
what's the best way for someone to connect with you?
Yeah, I would say the best way to connect with me is just give me a call. My number is right there at the bottom of the screen, 614-558-1344. If you want to ever just message me on Instagram, Facebook, send me a text, email, whatever. I'm pretty easy to get a hold of. So I'm constantly on my cell phone, it feels like. So just reach out. Small question, big question, whatever it is, I'm always happy to answer.
Yeah, and stay tuned for the big announcements of the opening of the building.
Yes.
It's going to be an awesome time. So I'm excited. Can't wait. Well, Brandon, thanks so much. I appreciate you, my friend. And
Yep. Thanks for
as
having me, John.
always, if I can do anything for you, let me know.
Awesome. I appreciate it.
All right. Talk to you later.
Yep. Bye.